Yalak Study Notes Torah Commentary, May 10th, 2020. This lesson is titled The Ox, the Ass, and the People of Israel. Isaiah chapter 1, verse 3. The ox knoweth his owner, and the ass his master's crib. But Israel doth not know, my people doth not consider. The ox, a bull for plowing, food, sacrifice, so it travels, it carries stuff. It's also the head of cattle, it's saying. It's carrying stuff. It's well used. So it is a type of servant. The same way that our people have been servants for such a long time. Then it says that the ox knoweth his owner. So just the same as the ass knows his master's crib. So he knows where he lives, he knows his master, and it is very well aware. But he's saying that the children of the Most High, they don't have this kind of knowledge for themselves. Now when it says the ox knoweth his owner, the same idea with the ass knowing as well. It uses the Hebrew word H3045 yada, which means to know. It also says learn to know, to perceive. Usually we would think of these animals as being like dumb animals. But it seems they're not quite as dumb as we normally think, just because they don't talk with languages the way we do. We just tend to think of them as dumb animals. But how dumb is this animal, the ox, or the ass? Because it says the ox knoweth his owner. So the ox is very aware. So it has awareness. And if it's knowing, then it has knowledge and is capable of utilizing the knowledge that it has. The same with the ass, it knows its master's crib. So it can utilize that, it can go into the crib and feel at home. So these animals are able to have knowledge. They can come to knowledge, arrive at knowledge, and make use of the knowledge. It says, yada, learn to know. So the ox then can learn to know. So it can learn something new. So when it gets an owner, someone takes it over and starts to quote unquote own it. It has to learn this new owner, learn the owner's ways, and learn its own home and learn the work that it's supposed to do. So the mind of the ox is able to go through all of this. It can perceive. But he's saying basically that the people of Israel, like the ass and like the ox here, they are not able to know. The children of Israel are not able to learn to know. They can't learn stuff. But it's a particular kind of learning. What kind? Not simply the learning from a book, because obviously we do that. We can go to school and we learn math and English and the other stuff, but we can also learn religious things because we can buy a Bible or whatever our religious book is. We can learn the scriptures in them and understand them. So he's not talking about Israel not being able to learn from a religious book or learn from the scrolls. They do have access to the scrolls. They know what's in the scrolls. They can learn that. What he's saying is they just don't learn about me. You see what he's driving at here? The ass, the ox, they are able to learn to know or to reach completion of their learning, which is to know. But he's saying that the people of Israel cannot reach completion of knowing me. They can know what is in the book of their choice, their religious book, but they cannot arrive at knowledge of me. So the seemingly dumb ass and dumb ox can reach completion in their knowledge and connect with their owner. And the ass can go right to his crib. But Israel cannot go to the house of their God or to the domain of knowledge that lets them click and sync with their God. And I'm going to tell you why. It's in that same verse, Isaiah 1 verse 3. It says, Yada also is to perceive. So it seems that the ass and the ox, they are able to learn to know because they can do what? Perceive. They can perceive, but Israel cannot. Just like Jeremiah 8 verse 8 says, how do you say you have the law of the Lord with you? And it goes on to say that the pen of the scribes is in vain. So they have the book, but they cannot tell that it is all vain because they are not learning to know by having perception regarding what they are learning, so they never arrive at knowing the Most High. So the pen of the scribes become vain. They have the law of the Lord, they think, but they do not have the Lord. So they never reach perception and never get to know the God that is written of by the scribe in the scrolls. So they end up with knowledge of the scrolls and they can correct it, and the scribe can throw out that book and put in another book and say, oh, I gotta rewrite this Torah scroll because one Hebrew letter is wrong. But they do not know the Lord. Experts at how the letters should be formed, but not experts at the relationship that can come only by perception with a God that cannot be seen, the same way the character that they are writing on the scrolls can be seen. They have no perception. But the dumb ass and the dumb ox, they have perception, so they can reach knowledge, they can know, they can become intimate with that knowledge or with what is communicated with them by their master, because they are able to get inside the communication or have perception. They can perceive what's going on and eventually get to perceive or understand or know that this is my master or this is my crib provided by my master. So he says the ox knoweth its owner. So the ox has knowledge because it perceives an owner. And he builds upon that by saying the ass knows its master's crib. So he's escalating a communication here by saying that the one animal knows the owner and the other animal also can know the crib or the house provided by the owner that is known. In other words, the animals can find their way home. Israel cannot perceive, they do not know, because they do not consider, so they never find their way home and keep sitting in a slave land saying, we are Jamaicans, we are Canadians, we are Americans or African Americans, and so on and so forth. And they find it difficult to understand that they came into these lands originally through their ancients long ago, before anyone else was in these lands. And they came as Africans. So because they do not perceive anything, then someone else can come along, which is their owner or their master, and tell them something new and give them a new identity. Because they do not have identity based on the knowledge that comes through the perception of the Creator who placed them in their own land from the start. So to perceive, to see, to find out and discern. So to perceive now is to arrive at the knowing or the knowledge by what transactions happen on the inside of the person. So notice it says, Israel doth not know, my people they do not consider. In other words, they are not perceiving. Now look at when he says here, my people doth not consider. It is to discern, so you can size up the thing internally now because you are perceiving it. You can understand it for what it is on the inside of you because you consider it. You flip this stuff around that you are considering flip it around, look at it from all angles, and you are getting intimate knowledge of it. That's what yada itself means, to be intimate, like Adam yada his wife. So he became intimate with her. And so if Israel does not yada or know me, they are not intimate with me. And that intimacy can happen only inside of the person or inside of the heart. But a seemingly dumb ass or ox can become intimate with whatever knowledge it is trying to connect with. But Israel does not do that. So my people doth not consider, they do not perceive and discern. They do not have insight. Why? Because they have been taught to focus on outsight, something that is outside of them. That is why they never perceive when someone is lying to them or teaching them to go the wrong way. Like, you say you are Christian or you are Hebrew Israelite or you are Muslim, to take the Abrahamic religions. Let's consider that. You were not, as far as I've found, in these Abrahamic religions many thousands of years ago, before conquest, before we were conquered, taken over. We were not into these stuff. The ancients did not do this kind of stuff. So now the text is telling us that there is some kind of a trick being played, even with the use of the word Israel. Because some will say, oh, it's just Hebrew, doesn't mean that Isis, Ra, and El, and so on, although you can replace that Isis with Aset. But it's actually mocking the people. It's saying the people do not know themselves that they are Isis, Ra, and El people, or they are Egyptian people or African people who started Egypt. But it also includes Ra. So if they link Ra to the sun, then you are telling me that Ra was not known, or the sun was not known before Egypt was set up? It would have been known. So it's really letting you know that the people who are called Israel do not know internally themselves that they are the Isis, Ra, and El people, they are the Egyptian people who are the African people, and so on. They do not know themselves because they do not perceive inner things. They more study outer things. But notice that when we were given these religions, we were given books to read as well with them. But the super ancients of our people did not originally use books. Books came along later on to write down the knowledge that they got by perception. But now when you are given a religion, you are given a book with it. And how do the books come by? Through force, through conquest, through punishment, through killing. Even in Islam, or within the Middle East, they have flogged people, our people, to force them. Hundreds of years ago, I understand, to force them, and they're still being forced today, to force them by war, conquest, and by flogging to learn the Quran. You learn the Bible in Christianity and the Torah through force by a sword, again in conquest, and by bullets from a gun, as you were conquered and taken over and given the Bible to learn the Torah and the New Testament. So we see that when you learn something from these religions and say, I am Christian, I am Muslim, I am Hebrew Israelite, you did not come upon these wrong identities by inner perception, but by outward force. That's why he's saying here, the ox knows by perception and the ass as well by inner reflection or perception, but my people do not consider, or my people do not have inner reflection by perception, because by perception they would understand in their inner world that God cannot be revealed by flogging me to learn a book that is on the outside of me and call that revelation. God cannot be revealed by someone who's putting a gun to me and blowing me away or blowing the person beside me away. And so if I survive, then I have to learn it so I don't get blown away as well. And then I end up choosing one of these three names from the Abrahamic religions. Inner perception would not lead you to revelation like that to take on one of these three religions. So he says, my people, they do not know, they do not consider. Because they're focusing not on inner perception but on outward learning from books that exist out of them that someone wrote and printed for them and say, you better learn this or else. So their knowing does not come by perception but by outward learning from an outward source. But the text is really letting you know upon deep consideration on the inside of you that God is revealed on the inside, not from considering some kind of word in a lexicon or Bible dictionary or so that is on the outside of you, such that you come to your knowledge by what is on the pages of books that are on the outside of your physical being, when your knowledge that would come from perception would all be something that results from what goes on the inner part of you. The ox, the ass, is teaching something to the people of Israel that you need to have inner reflection as the basis for the way you choose to live and what identity you take on. When you have that inner reflection that is honest and pure within you, you will understand who you are, that you are just this kind of an African who made up the basis for what the world now uses to make their religions. When will you get back to your true owner, the Creator, or get back to your crib?